Today on the TMZ Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the TMZ Podcast. I'm Charlie Cotton and today I'm joined by Eric Colley.
Yeah, good to be here.
How are you, mate?
I'm good. It's Friday. I'm feeling good.
You are our resident music expert.
I'll take that.
So we've got you in here for some big music stories today.
Sad story.
A sad story about Tony Bennett sadly passing away. I mean, he was 96, so he had a pretty good innings.
It's a pretty good run.
Pretty good run. We're also going to talk about Ariana Grande's new man, SpongeBob SquarePants. He used to play SpongeBob SquarePants.
He got a Tony nomination for that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Jeez Louise. We're also going to talk about Wee Man from Jackass. He has some thoughts on the casting of the Seven Dwarves for the
Can't wait to hear that.
Snow White live action. And also, finally, we're going to talk about, you heard of Slumdog Millionaire? Well, there's a new one. It's Skid Row Billionaire.
Yeah. The billionaire from Skid Row in L.A. Well,
Potentially.
We'll get into that too.
Well, let's, off the top, discuss Tony Bennett. Now, I must admit, I don't know that much about him.
Right.
I know became familiar with him when he did all the stuff with Lady Gaga.
That's legit.
That's legit,
Yeah.
you know. So tell me about Tony Bennett. He passed away.
Right.
What are your thoughts on this?
I mean, the word legend gets thrown around a lot, but Tony Bennett is a legit legend. The guy, his first number one hit was in 1951.
God.
Harry Truman was president of the U.S. back then. His last top 10 album was 2 years ago.
Yeah, that's in.
I mean, he was in
insane.
his 90s. So, yeah, his career spanned, 70 years. And he came out of that crooner era in the 40s and early 50s. Frank Sinatra once said he was the best singer in the world.
Really?
I mean, when you get Frank Sinatra saying you're the greatest singer, you're doing something right.
Absolutely.
I mean, he had duets with Amy Winehouse. Like, throughout his career, he's the oldest, well, at the time, the oldest living person ever to have a top 10 album or to chart a song. His career just lasted because he was such a great guy and such an amazing singer.
Yeah, I was reading that he holds the record for the number one at the oldest age. He was 88 when the Lady Gaga thing came out in
14, yeah.
Yeah. Or I think they did two
They
albums.
did. So the first one hit number one, and then the second one made the top 10 in 2021. Just 2 years ago, he was still having
Wow.
top 10 albums. He won over a dozen Grammys after the age of 60. As he got older, he got better.
Very few people have that sort of longevity.
Nobody. Yeah, I mean, who in their 90s is still having top 10 albums?
I mean, I'm tempted to say someone like Paul Anka, but maybe I'm way off.
No, not even. And Paul's not that old to be mad at you for saying
Oh,
that.
sorry, Paul. Paul's a big listener to the podcast, so I'm really...
He probably is. He loves Harvey. He and Harvey are boys. Paul listens, Harvey doesn't.
Do we know anything about like how he died or anything like that?
Well, we know he had Alzheimer's. In his last performance in 2021 at Radio City Music Hall, they did this whole special about it, and it was kind of sad. It was with Lady Gaga, and his mind was starting to go a little bit at that point. But what was so fascinating is they would sit him down at the piano and play these songs from 40, 50, 60 years ago, and he knew every word. But then he would be talking to the interviewer and would forget what he had said 2 minutes before.
Oh, really?
But that's how his mind worked. That music, that never left his mind.
That's very interesting.
Right.
And I believe that music has the power to stick with you. Like,
Oh, it does. You'll hear a song that you've not heard since you were like 15,
And know the
and you'll know
words.
every single word to the song.
it's kind of like when you smell something and you're like, "Oh, what was that? Oh, yeah, when I was 5 years old, I was digging up worms, and that's the same...
Why were you digging up worms when you were
I don't
5
know.
years old? That tracks, though. That makes so much sense. That's what you were doing.
Oh, well, yeah, that's really sad, obviously, that such a legend's passed away.
But what a life and what a career. I
Incredible.
mean, everybody dies. It's always sad when you die, but not everybody has the life he had.
Yeah,
So,
that's mind-blowing.
yeah.
All right, on to our next story. This is so interesting to me because Ariana Grande, has recently got married and now she's estranged and, going to get divorced. Well, she's got a new guy in her life and he's kind of going through a similar thing, except he was with his now estranged wife for 10 years. They were high school sweethearts. His name is Ethan Slater. He is on Wicked with her. They're in co-stars in Wicked. And I don't know if there was any crossover. It's unclear.
That's what the speculation is. How could you not think that? She's married, he's married, had a kid last year. They meet on this movie, and now suddenly they're both separated, getting divorced, and they're together.
Well,
But the timeline looks like that their relationship didn't overlap their previous relationships.
but I don't know if that can be true because on May 14th...
That's what they're saying.
That's what they're saying, of course, yeah. But I'm not going to take them at their word because on May 14th, which, if you do the math, is a little over 2 months ago,
Right.
he did a loving post tribute to his wife, this Ethan guy. And so they've reportedly been dating for months.
Yeah, well, in March, Michelle Yeoh, their co-star, won the Oscar, and there was a shot of them together watching her win the Oscar. Well, that was in March.
So maybe they didn't like do any like kissy, like technical sort of cheating.
Right.
But I think maybe
But they might have caught feelings, though.
They might have caught feelings.
Right.
I feel sorry for this Dalton guy, this Dalton Gomez, her ex.
Now, what a run that guy had. He meets Ariana Grande during COVID, stuck living with her for almost 2 years. They get married. What a run.
What a run. But now he's like replaced by, I mean, Ariana Grande doesn't have a type. She can't have a type because this Ethan Slater is... in Wicked he plays a munchkin, and I think picture a guy who'd play a munchkin.
And the guy who played SpongeBob before that.
Yes, picture that guy. That is what he looks like. He's a redhead, pale. Like I'm pale, so it's not saying it's a bad thing. But
I'm see through. So.
yeah. But I'm just saying it's just weird. She's gone from Pete Davidson, Big Sean, Mac Miller, Ethan Slater.
Dalton Gomez, no type. She has got no type.
Well, a couple of them, have reportedly got big fangs. So maybe the ones that haven't reported, like maybe they've all just got,
So we don't know what's in SpongeBob's square pants down there. Who knows? But
why are your pants so square?
Right. And you'd think like, well, the one thing they have in common is that they're all very famous, but Dalton Gomez wasn't.
Right.
And even like this Ethan Slater, he's very talented and he's famous in Broadway, but he's not like a household name yet. So it seems like any guy kind of would have a chance, maybe.
That is, I think that's kind of a cool thing, to think of Ariana Grande, that she's sort of like attainable to the normies.
I mean, she's not, but
not to me and you.
But there's that 2% chance of the hope that you got there.
Yes, right? I know. Well, it's just. This is such a perplexing story to me, and it'll be interesting to see how it continues to go. And I feel like she's kind of unlucky in love. I hope that she'll be able to like settle down with either this Ethan guy or the next guy.
Maybe, and she's almost 30, so maybe she's starting to hit that point where she's like looking for a longer.
Right.
Although she was just married to Dalton, so who knows?
She is Mrs. Thank You Next, and
I mean that is her thing.
And I think that's what she kind of does. I mean, rooting for her that it works out, but now she's kind of like a bit of a stepmom to this.
That's true.
To this
that's
baby.
True.
It's a baby. He was born last year. This kid.
That's right.
So, God, I don't know what's going on. Interesting to
do you think they'll be together a year from now?
No. I think maybe after Wicked is done and dusted, the movie's out, la la la.
Right.
She's on to her next project. She's traveling the world. I think there'll be a new
and let her live her life. But and also it's weird, her relationships when they end, they don't seem bad when they end.
No, there's no sort of messy sort of like
Thank You Next was like how she appreciated them. Pete Davidson never said anything bad about her. I mean, Big Sean had a couple issues, but there was a song. But it seems like they have their
amicable
fun, they split, and they both go on with their lives.
That's what you want.
That's what you want.
Okay, on to our next story. We got Wee Man out. Wee Man from Jackass.
Right.
He's a little person.
Wee Man.
Wee Man. It's right there in the name.
Yeah.
And we talked to him about it. Controversial photos came out. I think last week the photos from set from this new Snow White live action came out. And they're not 7 dwarves. They're 7 regular... Average-sized people.
Right. What are they even calling it in the movie? Snow White and the 7 people?
I think they'll probably just call it Snow White.
Yeah, but...
And so it's just it was interesting because Peter Dinklage once sort of criticized the fact that, all we play sort of
dwarves and elves and munchkins and
Totally. And so... I think maybe as a response to that, as a response to sort of a bit of a wokeness coming around, and they've replaced the 7 dwarves with 7 average people. So, Wee Man's a perfect person to talk about. What do you feel about that? So let's play some of the sound. Let's hear how he feels.
It's a bad thing. I'm not agreeing with it. One, because what they're doing is pretty much you're replacing jobs that people could have as little people. Okay. Snow White and the 7 dwarfs, it's 4 dwarfs, you know? And what we were discussing, too, the other day was the Wonka movie. And Hugh Grant is now playing an Oompa Loompa. So I guess, Hugh Grant, you're now identifying as a little person.
I love this.
I do too.
I love this.
This is such a lose-lose for Disney.
Yes.
If they cast little people, then it's offensive.
Yeah.
If they don't cast little people, it's offensive. What do they do?
What do they do?
I get Wee Man's point, like, and I get Peter Dinklage's point. Like, it sucks that those are the only roles that little people can get. But then when there are roles for that, they don't give them to them.
Totally. Well, I mean, Peter Dinklage broke that mold with his Game of Thrones type stuff, which was amazing, and he was a pioneer in that way. But I can also understand that, like, there are lots of little people actors out there. Lots.
Right.
And they need work as much as every actor needs work. And so these are probably the roles they almost rely on or like look forward to because it's got to be me, right? Well, no, we're going to go with regular because we've always had that debate, can a straight person play a gay person or should you give the role to a gay person or even more like...
Or somebody like a physical handicap. Should you have a person with a disability play it or is it offensive if you don't?
Or even race thing. Wasn't there a thing about like some British black woman playing like Harriet Tubman or something like that? When it should have been American, African-American.
Right.
So we've always got that thing. So it kind of makes sense that little people, that's our job. You know what I mean?
Right. But I also see Peter Dinklage's point is that shouldn't be the only job.
Right.
And obviously he's proven he's an amazing actor. He can play any kind of role. And it doesn't have to be a little person role. He just happens to be. I don't know. And if you're Disney, what do you do?
I think if I was Disney, if I was Bob Iger, I'd probably just keep it as the dwarves and give it to little people. If those little people are happy to be in those roles, like legitimately happy and they're getting paid well and blah, 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 who cares?
And as long as you don't make them the butt of the joke.
No.
They can be funny characters, but it shouldn't be the joke that they're little people.
Totally.
You don't mock that, and I don't think it would have.
No.
The original movie doesn't really.
No,
the old
it doesn't.
Cartoon, but...
and now sort of Wee Man's calling it for it to be reshot. Do you think Disney's gonna?
Yeah, I'm surprised we actually know what could they do to make it right. And he said, well, they could reshoot it. I really thought he was gonna say reshoot it and cast me.
All right.
I was like, oh, Wee Man shooting a shot, and he didn't. I'm like, no, put Wee Man. I think that should be our thing. I want Wee Man in the Disney movie.
I want him to be in like a shopping trolley, like pushed into some bushes. Let's have that movie.
That's right.
Okay, on to our last story. The Skid Row billionaire might have been discovered. So the Powerball, is it Powerball or some other sort of draw?
It's the Powerball.
The Powerball draw went off and someone won $1.08 billion. And right now we don't know who it was, but it was funny yesterday. This lady kind of came forward sobbing, "It's me," and dropping to her feet. We don't know if this was the actual winner or not, but the fact that if I'm more impressed if it wasn't the winner and she's just doing a bit.
I would love if this is not the person who won. She shows up at this little convenience store where we know the ticket was sold and she's just sobbing. And I love it. And as soon as like all the cameras are there and asking like, can you tell us about it? And she's like, I can't talk right now. Like, already not talking to the press. Like, if she is not the winner, then I respect her hustle. I
will follow her TikTok. You know what I mean? If this is all like a TikTok play, sign me up. I'll follow. So this interesting thing was this $1 billion lottery ticket was sold 13 miles from the $2 billion lottery ticket winner just in Santa. Where was that sold? Altadena?
Yeah, I think so.
Man, the rest of America must hate California.
Well, not everybody in California is rich.
Right.
We are sitting here as proof of that.
Yeah, but that's the perception, right?
That's true.
And so, man, that must suck. What would you do, Eric, if you hit? Would you take basically you can either have the lump sum of half of it now, or you can take the full billion over about 30 years.
And you got to remember, if you take the half of it, the $500 million, then half of that's going to tax.
Right.
So you're getting about $250 million.
But it's also going to tax if you do the 30-year thing, right?
I think one, you don't get to tax. I don't know.
I think you could probably get taxed over.
Either way, it's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
I'd probably take the lump sum.
Really?
Yeah, because 30 years from now, what do I want to be getting all this money when I'm, in my 50s, 60s, 70s, like going on?
True.
$250 million even. Say if it's after taxes, if it's a quarter of it. That's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. And also, like, I hate to sound like an economist, but like in 30 years' time, you don't know what the inflation's going to be like.
True.
Because you're probably still getting paid your, monthly stipend from the lotto people, but maybe it's worth half of what it would have been worth back now anyway.
That's true.
Take the money now, invest it in cryptocurrency.
Oh, you and your crypto, you are beating that horse, man. But yeah, would you take the payout?
I think I just convinced myself that yes.
Yeah, would you rather have $250 million or $500 million right now, or have $1 billion when you're in your 70s?
I think you would, jokes aside, take the lump sum now and invest it smartly,
Right.
so that maybe, before those 30 years, all you have to do is double your money, basically, and you've made out.
And even if you don't, $250 million is more than I will make in my entire lifetime.
Yeah.
So I'm already ahead of the game. What do I care? $500 million. That's more money than I would ever even think of having.
I mean, usually I kind of think to myself, maybe just take the monthly or yearly thing just so you don't blow it. Because I think, the tendency.
Well, you've got to trust yourself that you're not going to blow it.
I don't trust myself.
Well, you're probably smart not to do that.
I do not have like that self sort of like
Yeah.
keeping. I'm very peer pressured, and I peer pressure myself. I'm impulsive, so maybe that's a better way to do it.
You can be impulsive for $50 million and still have hundreds of million left.
That's true.
And my question too is: so say they have the $1 billion,
Yeah.
and the person takes the lump sum, so the state gives them the $500 million. Where does the other $500 million go? They just keep it?
I guess they do. I guess, yeah.
No,
do.
you know what? I've come back around again. I'm going to take the payout just so that they don't get it.
I like that too.
That's right.
It's a hard decision.
It's out of spite.
We'll probably. Are you also, last thing? Are you one of the people who would tell everyone? Would you be that woman who's like, I won?
Absolutely not.
Or would you be like,
you will have so many like random cousins and friends and people coming to you trying to get that money, even if you don't give it to them. It's just that's your life, is dealing with all these people that have your phone number, have your email. They're like, hey, I just saw that you won that.
But how do you hide it then? How do you like hide your newfound I got a Lamborghini, but it wasn't me?
I don't know. You move somewhere where nobody knows you and you change your phone number.
Would you, if you had won 2 days ago, would you still be sitting here across the podcast desk with me now?
Yes, because it'd be too obvious.
Would you have like this little glimmer in your eye?
Yes, absolutely. there'd be a little bounce in my step for sure. Yeah.
Well, judging off your sort of like you this morning, I don't think you won.
I did not win, and neither did you, judging by that shirt you're wearing.
Just because I got paint on it, came this way. All right, Eric, thank you very much for joining us today. It was very fun, and we'll see you guys here next week. Bye.